Hi there. It is January 20th, 2026. Um, I'm wide awake, doing all right. Actually, kind of warmed up a bit. I was getting pretty chilly doing school watch this morning. And so that's what I'm going to talk through. I'm going to kind of go through what you, especially if you're a parent or somebody in a community that has parents that you feel should be protected, um, kind of what I would recommend, being a couple of weeks into this, to do before and once this comes to your community. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is money. Um, money is pretty big here because it affects the way that all of us live our lives. And saving money is really important because this is disproportionately harming the least wealthy and most vulnerable people in my community. And that's really because the only way to preserve even some safety is to stay home. Staying home is not completely safe. We're seeing doors busted down. We are seeing U.S. citizens marched out of their homes in their shorts and no shirt in -0 Fahrenheit weather, then to be released without any way to get back home, an hour or two later. I would recommend making sure that you are prepared to live off of your savings for at least a year. This is a really good time to critically review all the things that you're spending money on. So review all those subscriptions you're paying money for. There's really no excuse or need for cable TV. I know sports has been the long bastion as far as why we keep that on. But really, if you're a big sports fan, build community and watch sports at your local sports bars or with your friends and loved ones. I know that we're very used to sitting inside our suburban homes watching TV on our own screens, but that money can be better spent elsewhere. Also, check into your cell phone bills, your music streaming subscriptions, your entertainment subscriptions. Um, you may or may not find that those are still worth what you're paying for them. If you happen to have a decent amount of money, if you have savings or a financial safety net, first let's put on your own mask and then let's help put on others. So, first, it's time to review your investment strategy. The way I look at this is somebody who's just been taught put all your money into the stock market because it keeps going up and never goes down, is that there are so many kind of red flags in the world right now that even as somebody who would love to see my investments grow and grow, I'm paying some special attention to some other events. It's important to know that any publicly traded company that profits directly from this current kind of extreme business and tax environment is very likely to decline in speculative value if it appears that there are going to be some changes coming to this year's environment based on the midterm elections. I think if the current administration takes over the Federal Reserve, as we have heard from Jerome Powell, he is actively trying to do last week, your 15 years of retirement savings might very soon be 1.5 years of retirement savings. And if that occurs, know that that's occurring at the same time that those less fortunate are going to be experiencing exponentially worse hardship, hunger, homelessness, the sort of things that lead to really bad conditions. If you can, if you feel the need to help, if you feel a calling to give back, this is a great time to very carefully identify and support those institutions that are going to be the most important to you. Public radio, especially, needs help right now. It's been the single best traditional and multi format news source for the people of my state as this kind of all goes down. Donate to food banks in your community and in other ways, try to plug in and find those people who are impacted. We've seen a lot of GoFundMe's for families that are being ripped apart, and they really need help. And the best way, I think, in this world to do that is hyper locally with their own neighbors. Um, your local American Civil Liberties Union is also a place that is going to be really important to donate to. The ACLU chapter is going to be supporting the legal efforts of people who are having their civil rights violated. And I don't have solid numbers, but we've seen so many civil rights violations that an organization that has a long track record of helping to defend those is absolutely one worth giving your money to. And I will say that the ACLU chapter of Minneapolis has shown up. They were one of the first testimonials given during the emergency meeting of Congress that was held in Minneapolis here, where we had 20 some odd Congress people fly in just to make sure that we were recording the state of what's going on here on the ground. So yeah, that's going to be money. Again, put on your mask first. Make sure your community members have their masks on. I mean, same thing as flying on an airplane. But just do know that that is one that you always need to have an eye on the financial ball, but it has a very real impact on whether you and your community members are able to weather this sort of invasion. All right, building community. This is probably the most important area in which to prepare, full stop. Especially we who have been conditioned by remote work over the past few years, are a society that I would say is really beset by a previously unknown amount of social atrophy. 30 years ago, before the age, it might be more than 30 years ago, but before the age of cell phones, before the age of the internet, local community was almost non-optional, right? Your church, your school, whatever else you have going on. But we've kind of moved on into this internet age, and it's more and more common for us to stay home. So I would definitely be very conscious of building that local community. Make sure that people know that you're there to support them, and know how to reach out to you directly in case of that sort of emergency. So I'm speaking out about that because I am so guilty of kind of living in a tech-enabled bubble of comfort. And I'd say that one of the most empowering things that this emergency has brought to me is an immediate and very loud impetus to correct that. I have met so many people over the past 13 days who feel that same calling to protect their communities. If you, like me, don't get the benefit of forewarning before your city is targeted, well, it's not too bad there. Just look for the little old ladies or little old guys in high vis vests on your school sidewalks or corners with whistles. I mean, look for the helpers, just like Mr. Rogers said, and they'll get you keyed in to where you can really give back and help in your own community. All right, so one thing I'm going to challenge you to do, especially if you are somebody who is generally surrounded by a community with the same life circumstances, more directly, I mean the same wealth level, is to reach outside of your typical community. I grew up in an outer ring suburb, and the neighborhood that I think of when I think of my childhood home had relatively large homes. If anybody was living in poverty, it wasn't obvious, and I had to cross like a county road in order to get into other neighborhoods. In my childhood home, I don't think I was able to walk to any apartments. And I know that a lot of the folks that I interact with on a daily basis are very much living that same reality. So I would say start walking your neighborhood. And if you can, find new walking routes that put you through neighborhoods that you may not have walked through before. If you do live kind of isolated or in a pretty protected area, consider driving a mile or two away. Look for where the apartment buildings are near you. They're often near schools, and they just plan on driving, parking, and walking around that neighborhood. Walking is very helpful. It gives your neighbors visibility to you. It gives you visibility to your neighborhood. The last one I want to talk about when it comes to building community is a special shout out to your disabled neighbors. When we talk about those those who are at risk here, it is the most vulnerable. We immediately think of those who are being racially profiled and pulled off the streets. But the reality of a situation like this, it's not just that you have to be worried about these masked people in unmarked cars. It is very much like COVID. This has a chilling effect that is keeping everybody in their homes because it's the most safe they can be. And unfortunately, what that means is that a lot of the people filling important community roles, like grocery delivery for your local grocery store, may or are going to be the ones who are impacted the most. So if you can volunteer there, that's great. But I'd say that a really good way to make sure that your community and the disabled members of your community are okay, go door to door now. Go door to door before tension levels are high and heart rates are high. And say hi. Introduce yourself if you haven't. Let them know where you live, who you are. Give them a big smile. Give them your phone number. Make sure that people are able to reach out to you. Um, because if you find yourself in an environment where you're a bit scared to go outside, doing something for somebody else, grabbing a bag of groceries for somebody who can't get to the store, it it helps immensely for you to make sure that you're doing what you can, and it's personally important to get through this. Okay, so that's kind of like your local neighborhood organization. It's something that's really important to focus on. And again, for me, this was the biggest night and day switch when everything started going down. Let's talk a little bit about actually organizing. So you're going to hear like build community and organize. Those are two very important things that we're very atrophied or not practiced at doing most of the time. So here's some of the practical advice that I'm going to give you when it comes to actually organizing. The first one, you can do it right now. Download the Signal app on your phone. It's basically a security-minded group text app. You might have heard of Signalgate with Hegseth and our current Department of War administration using it. It's an effective tool. It's an encrypted communication. If you use it correctly, it's pretty secure. If you invite people who are members of the press and then you send war plans over it, it's not very secure. So it is, it's a tool. You should know how to use it and know who's in the groups that you're in. Most organization here is being done through Signal group chats. Additions are made via face-to-face communication more often than not, because you're going to find if you live in a community that's highly affected by this, you'll see who the people who are responding pretty clearly. They're going to make themselves pretty visible. So I've seen these chats used in a few different ways. I'm going to be focusing on the two that I think are most ubiquitous and that you should be aware of. The first are going to be school or neighborhood watch groups. So these are going to be typically including a bit of structure, a map with specific posts or zones or streets, and then basically just kind of a self-assignment to basically we want to have volunteers at these 5 or 6 places during this hour when the school buses are coming in the morning, and then same places for school departure, right? We want to make sure that if we see, again, a group of SUVs dropping off little paramilitary men to intimidate our neighbors, that we're getting the response there immediately, and we have the folks seeing them pull into the neighborhoods as soon as they do. The second groups that you see in Signal are going to be rapid response groups. These are usually larger. We've found very quickly that there's a 1,000-person limit per group. So when you are deciding kind of how large, if you're going to be building these or participating in these, do know that you'll have lots of people volunteering very quickly. Don't make them too big. Make them specific to a specific area. Once you see these people in your city, there are tools out there that make it easy to see where they're going to be because they tend to profile the same areas over and over. Yeah, so those are kind of the big tips for organizing around technology. Again, Signal is the one to use right now, but really it's encrypted text apps. Yeah, frankly, you could do it in a non-encrypted text app. I think if anybody's reading the communication and they see that you have to form a neighborhood watch group for your school so that kids' parents don't get abducted, I don't think anybody could see that and pretend you're the bad guy. So let's talk supplies. When you are out there, when you are watching a corner to make sure that the people moving into your school at school arrival time are in fact buses, students, and parents, having a whistle helps. Get a whistle, get a bright lanyard. It's just for visibility, I think, more often than not. I haven't had to blow my whistle on a school watch. The times when I have seen really increased and aggressive presence have been other times, but in the same locations. Think about replacing your phone battery. Be cognizant of how much life you've got on there. Make sure it's charged up before you go out, and probably have a good battery backup. Um, your role when you're doing these sort of school watches is first and foremost to record what's going on. Change your phone to unlock only with PIN. If you're using fingerprints or face scan, biometrics are not a secure way to keep your phone unlocked. As far as clothing is concerned, if it's cold outside, I think it's about one of the coldest days I've seen this year, which frankly, bring it on. I've never been too scared of the cold, but right now I'm absolutely loving it. You're going to want long underwear. You're going to want maybe snow pants. You're going to want multiple socks, pairs of socks if it's cold. So basically all the stuff you need to stand out there, depending on how long you plan on being out there. I usually go for about an hour at a time. The other thing, especially if you're doing a school watch like I've been doing, colorful hat, really important to have, colorful whistle, scarves, high vis vest. You are out there not just to be a sentry, but to be seen. I've been thanked by multiple parents, bus drivers, and other members of the community just for being visible, just for making it known that, yeah, the community is going to stand out here when we're under duress. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some very practical things that you can do to prepare for when this happens. I hope that it doesn't. I hope that by the time this scourge gets out of Minneapolis, we see at least some reform as far as the tactics that they're allowed to use. However, unfortunately, it doesn't seem at this point like there's an adult in the room. So we're just going to assume that you guys are going to have to go through the same thing we're going through. And you know what? We're going to make it through. I mean, we didn't know that this was the challenge we were going to have to face this year, but Minnesota's up to lead the charge, and America's up to continue it. God bless.